There are places in this world worth hundreds of millions of dollars that you will never see. Not in person, not in photographs, not even from above. Properties so exclusive that their very locations are classified. Homes so secretive that even mentioning their existence could put you on a watch list. While most luxury real estate gets splashed across Instagram and architectural magazines, these properties exist in the shadows. Protected by layers of shell companies, non-disclosure agreements, and in some cases, armed security forces. Today, we're going to talk about the properties that the ultra-wealthy don't want you to know about. The homes that exist beyond public record. Beyond curiosity. Beyond reach. Let's start beneath the surface, literally. In the last 15 years, there's been a quiet arms race among the world's wealthiest individuals. Not for yachts or private jets, but for something far more pragmatic and deeply unsettling: survival bunkers. But these aren't the cramped Cold War fallout shelters your grandparents might remember. These are underground palaces. Multi-level compounds designed to sustain life, and luxurious life at that, for years without ever surfacing. New Zealand has become ground zero for this phenomenon. The country's political stability, remote location, and relatively sparse population make it ideal for those preparing for civilizational collapse. Silicon Valley billionaires have been buying up properties there for over a decade, and many of these estates contain features the public will never witness. One such property, reportedly owned by a tech billionaire, sits on hundreds of acres in the South Island. From above, it looks like a modest farming compound. Maybe a few buildings, some grazing land. But according to contractors who signed NDAs that were later leaked, beneath that pastoral surface lies something extraordinary. Multiple stories underground. A complex with its own water purification system, geothermal power, hydroponic farms capable of feeding dozens of people indefinitely, medical facilities, and living quarters that would rival a five-star hotel. The entrance. Disguised. The ventilation. Filtered and hidden. The whole operation designed to be completely invisible from satellites, from neighboring properties, from any form of outside observation. This isn't paranoia from a bygone era. This is modern wealth preparing for modern catastrophes. Climate change. Social upheaval. Pandemic. Nuclear conflict. Whatever the threat, these individuals are building insurance policies measured in millions of dollars and thousands of square feet of reinforced concrete. And here's what makes these properties truly invisible: they are not listed anywhere. No public records. No property tours for Architectural Digest. The architects sign NDAs. The contractors sign NDAs. Even the security teams operating these facilities sign NDAs with penalty clauses that would bankrupt most people. One construction manager, who worked on a bunker complex in the American Midwest, speaking anonymously years later, described a project where workers were compartmentalized. Different crews worked on different sections, brought in at different times, none seeing the complete picture. The location itself was disguised. Workers were transported to the site in vehicles with blacked-out windows. The result? A facility that cost an estimated $150 million to construct, housing enough provisions for 50 people for 5 years, complete with a shooting range, decontamination airlocks, and blast doors that could withstand direct missile strikes. And you'll never see a single photo of it. Now let's come back to the surface, but stay in the shadows. In the most exclusive neighborhoods of Los Angeles, London, Hong Kong, and Monaco, there exists a tier of real estate that never touches the open market. Properties that change hands for hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions, so discreet that even other billionaires don't hear about them. These are the ghost mansions. Properties owned through labyrinthine corporate structures that make identifying the actual owner nearly impossible. Take, for example, a certain property in Bel Air. We'll call it the Monarch Estate, because its real name is unknown. This compound spans 14 acres on some of the most expensive land in America. From what little can be observed from adjacent properties and brief satellite imagery before it's obscured, the estate includes multiple structures, tennis courts, a vineyard, and what appears to be a private amphitheater. The property has never been listed for sale publicly. It's changed hands twice in 40 years, both times in deals brokered privately between parties who knew each other personally. The sales prices were never recorded in public documents because the properties were technically sold as corporate entities, not real estate. One real estate attorney, who has worked with ultra-high net worth individuals, described these transactions as operating in a completely different universe from normal real estate. There are no open houses, no listings, no real estate agents in the traditional sense. Instead, there are intermediaries who know who's buying and who's selling, who facilitate meetings that never officially happened, and who structure deals that leave almost no paper trail. In London, an entire street in Kensington reportedly contains properties owned by a single Middle Eastern royal family. The homes appear occupied, lights turn on and off, but no one has seen the occupants in years. Neighbors don't know who lives there. The properties are maintained by staff who arrive daily but won't speak about their employers. These properties are more than homes. They are assets. Vaults for wealth, held in markets that never crash, because they are never really traded. They exist outside the normal economy, in a realm where property values are negotiated person to person, where privacy is worth more than any amenity. And they are completely invisible to ordinary people, even those who could technically afford them. Because to even know these properties exist, you need to be in circles where such knowledge is casually shared. You need to be someone who gets a phone call that begins, "I know someone who knows someone who might be interested in selling." One property in the Hollywood Hills, built in the 1960s for a reclusive industrialist, has never been photographed inside, ever. Not for a magazine. Not for a sale. Not even for an insurance appraisal that left the owner's hands. The few people who've been inside describe it as a time capsule, but also as something else, a fortress of privacy in an age where privacy is the ultimate luxury. The windows face inward toward courtyards. The property is surrounded by tall hedges that have been grown and maintained for decades. The entrance is unmarked. Even the address is technically listed as a different street than where the actual driveway sits. This is intentional obscurity. Wealth that doesn't want to be seen, doesn't want to be known, doesn't want to be coveted. But some properties aren't hidden because their owners choose secrecy. They are hidden because their owners literally own the concept of privacy in their nations. Royal residences around the world represent a unique category of inaccessible luxury. These aren't just homes. They are institutions. And many of them contain wings, rooms, entire sections that even documentaries don't cover. Take Buckingham Palace. Yes, portions are open to tourists during summer months. You can walk through state rooms and see magnificent artwork. But there are entire floors of the palace the public will never see. Private apartments, archives, service corridors that have existed for centuries. The Royal Collection, one of the largest and most valuable private art collections in the world, contains pieces that aren't on public display. Some have never been photographed in color. They sit in private viewing rooms accessible only to the royal family and occasional scholars, who must receive special permission. Windsor Castle, the weekend residence of the British monarch, has a reported 1,000 rooms. The public sees maybe 50 of them. The rest exist in a space between private residence and national monument. Staff who work there sign the Official Secrets Act. What happens in those private wings stays there. But British royal properties pale in comparison to what exists in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia's royal family reportedly owns over a dozen palaces throughout the kingdom. Most have never been photographed inside. Some have never been photographed from outside. One such palace, located in the desert outside Riyadh, is said to contain over 500 rooms, its own mosque, multiple pools, and an underground parking garage that can hold 200 vehicles. It was built in the 1980s at a cost that was never publicly disclosed. The compound is surrounded by walls 20 feet high. Armed guards patrol the perimeter. Cameras monitor every approach. No journalist has ever been inside. No architect has ever published plans. The construction workers who built it were brought in from overseas and departed when the project completed. What exists inside those walls is known only to the royal family and their most trusted staff. The Sultan of Brunei's Istana Nurul Aman Palace is another example. It's the largest residential palace in the world, 1.7 million square feet. That's bigger than Versailles. Bigger than Buckingham Palace. Bigger than the Vatican. The palace contains 1,700 rooms, 257 bathrooms, a banquet hall that can seat 4,000 people, a mosque that can accommodate 1,500, and a garage that houses a car collection valued at over $5 billion. And yet, almost no one has seen inside it. The palace is open to the public for 3 days a year during Hari Raya celebrations, and even then, only certain areas. The private quarters, the vaults, the personal collections, the inner workings of the palace, remain completely secret. There are palaces in Thailand, in Abu Dhabi, in Qatar, in Morocco, all following the same pattern. Massive, expensive, meticulously maintained, and absolutely off-limits to outside eyes. These aren't just houses. They are symbols of power so complete that the architecture itself becomes classified information. And then, there are places where geography itself provides the secrecy. Private islands represent the ultimate in residential exclusivity. Not just a gated community, but an entire landmass that belongs to one person or one family. And while some celebrity islands get photographed for magazines, there's a tier above that. Islands whose very locations are privileged information. In the Caribbean, the South Pacific, the Seychelles, and other remote locations, there exist islands owned by individuals whose names you'd recognize, but whose properties you'll never see. One such island in the Pacific, owned by a tech founder, was purchased for an undisclosed sum in the high 8 figures. The island spans over 200 acres. According to filed permits in the island nation where it sits, the owner constructed a residence, guest houses, a helipad, and supporting infrastructure. But no one outside the owner's circle has seen what was actually built. The permits are vague. The construction was done by firms bound by NDAs. Supply boats bringing materials to the island during construction were prohibited from taking photographs. Satellite imagery shows vegetation and what might be structures, but the resolution is deliberately limited. The owner reportedly negotiated with the satellite imaging company to reduce the resolution of images of that specific location. Another island, this one in the Caribbean, is owned by a financial magnate. The island has its own marina, its own airstrip, and according to one former employee who spoke anonymously, its own desalination plant and power generation facility, making it completely self-sufficient. The main residence is rumored to be over 30,000 square feet, but there are no architectural photographs. No interior designer has featured it in a portfolio. The construction crew was flown in and out on the owner's private aircraft, staying on the island for the duration of the project with no communication to the outside world. What makes these islands truly fascinating is that they're not just about luxury. They're about autonomy. These are places where normal laws barely reach. Where privacy isn't just expected, it's enforceable by physical distance and, in some cases, private security forces. One island in the South Pacific, owned by an individual whose wealth comes from resources extraction, reportedly has its own security team of former Special Forces personnel. The waters around the island are patrolled. Boats that come too close are intercepted. Drones that fly over are jammed or, according to one unverified report, shot down. These islands exist in a legal gray zone. Technically part of nations with laws and regulations. Practically, sovereign territories unto themselves. What happens there, who visits, how they live, all of it sealed off from outside observation. So why does all this secrecy exist? Why go to such lengths to hide homes, to obscure property records, to build in places no one can reach? The answer is layered. Security, certainly. Privacy, absolutely. But there's something else at play here. At a certain level of wealth, visibility itself becomes a liability. Attention becomes risk. Being known becomes being vulnerable. In a world where everyone shares everything, where privacy is increasingly rare, the ultra-wealthy have gone in the opposite direction. They've created spaces that exist almost outside of reality, as most people experience it. Properties that are more rumor than fact. Places that exist in conversations between people who will never repeat what was said. And here's the uncomfortable truth: we'll never know what these places truly look like. We'll never walk their halls, never swim in their pools, never stand on their terraces and look out at views that cost more than most people will earn in their lifetimes. These properties represent a level of exclusivity that isn't just about money. It's about power. The power to be unknown. The power to exist outside of public knowledge. The power to live in ways that leave no trace. The most expensive homes in the world aren't the ones listed for record prices. They're the ones you've never heard of, and never will. Do you think you could live in the lap of luxury, even if it means you're completely hidden? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into invisible luxury, hit that like button and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes looks at how the ultra-wealthy actually live.